We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube and also rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. What is going on? Good morning to all the Bears fans out there. Today, what we're going to be doing is a whole bunch of recaps. We are going to be talking about what I felt after I watched this, after watching Caleb Williams for a second time. When I watched the tape, there's a lot of really good things against the Bills, and also a lot of other people were talking about what we saw out of Caleb Williams. So I want to just recap that because, come on, you got to love Caleb Williams. More Caleb Williams content, the better. And then also there's been some rumors about the Bears potentially adding a pass rusher. So I want to talk about that a little bit as well. And then I was at camp yesterday on Tuesday, so I want to just recap what I saw at training camp, but then also just some people like a special player that I saw and also what happened with the scrimmage. And then last but not least, we will be covering Hard Knocks. So make sure to like, subscribe. Also, I tried changing my mic, so if it does sound a little different, then that's the reason why. So I was trying to turn it up a little bit. So if I'm clipping it all, apologies. I'll try and get this all fixed out. So let's get this show on the road, shall we? So let's first start and talk about what I saw on the second watch of Caleb Williams. Because the second time that I watched Caleb Williams back, it was more impressive than what I previously saw. Because with the all-22, you could see what the wide receivers were running. And the big reason why I wanted to watch it again is, like I said after I saw him the first time, I said, hey, he's holding the ball a little bit too long with some of these throws. And when I was rewatching him, I was going, okay, I could see why he was throwing it longer or why he was holding on the ball a little bit longer than expected. And part of that is because someone needs to get open. There wasn't people open. So overall, he's trying to hold the ball, wait for someone to get open, and you can kind of see his reads. But also, the more that we're hearing about how he was running the offense, made me come away a lot more impressed because he not only understands what is going on, like he gets what is happening around him. And we saw this yet again. HBO will talk a little bit later on. So if you haven't seen it, you can still listen to the show until the very end. But with HBO, you kind of heard him talk a little bit about like, hey, Rome, I need you here. I need this person here. And what you keep hearing about it is that he understands where everyone needs to be or where he wants everyone to be. And also what the defense is giving him. That's why, like we said after the show, after the initial game, he saw that they were going to be bringing the house. So he kind of knew what was going to happen. And then he steps up and runs. So on second watch, really liked what Caleb Williams brought to the table, but also too, you see more and more people talking about Caleb Williams in a positive light. Like for Sharp Analytics, they had the top 10, or he posted out his top 10 most efficient, I think it was like efficient quarterback plays in the first week of preseason. Caleb Williams with a 0.97. The next closest was Joe Burrow at a 0.62. Then JJ McCarthy at 0.57. So it's kind of one of these made up points where, hey, how efficient is someone? So this is something that Sharp Analytics uses to say this is an efficient quarterback. And overall, Caleb Williams almost doubling the second place Joe Burrow. So really, really good stuff out of Caleb Williams. So on second watch, it was really good to just see Caleb Williams doing more positive things. But then also, too, Dan Orlovsky out of ESPN was also in love with Caleb Williams, saying that he is the number 6 quarterback in the NFL. That's a little rich, but yet again, ESPN, they post these big headlines, big key things. But overall, Orlovsky saying this high praise for the rookie. But overall, it just kind of continues to go with the Bears have a good player with Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams, to me, just continues to look impressive. And I think it's different, and I hate going back to the ex Justin Fields, but it's different. Where Justin Fields, people were fighting for Fields and saying, you got to give him a chance. You got to give him a chance. No one's saying you got to give Caleb Williams a chance. He's the one that's showing what he's capable of and showing the special and showing all these amazing plays that he can do in practice, but also out there on the field. So overall, great stuff. But yeah, NJ saying bear down. What is good, my friend? And Bears junkie, bear down indeed. Yeah, hope everyone's having a good day, good week of work as well. So I know that more early morning, like I said, I'm off this week, so wanted to make sure to get an episode in. I was going to last night, but we all know what HBO was doing, where HBO was just taking a little long to post everything out there. So next little bit, because I do want to just talk about this from a quarterback perspective, JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy goes, or he didn't go down during the preseason game, but ends up getting hurt with his meniscus. So now he might need to get his meniscus, get surgery on his meniscus. So unfortunately, JJ McCarthy might not be out there for the Minnesota Vikings. Why I say unfortunate, I just want to see him out there playing. I just want to see him actually play some meaningful snaps and get their best players out on the field, because you want to beat them when they have their best out there. Let's continue going down and let's talk about pass rushers. So next, with pass rushers, this is something that has been going out there, going around. I'm noticing on Twitter a little bit, where people are rumoring that the Bears are looking at a potential pass rusher. And part of the reason that this is a rumor is that Matt Eberflus was having an interview with a couple people, I think from, I forgot what sports network, but as he's talking about it, he says they're working on getting a number 2 pass rusher. To me, you can take this one of two ways. You can either say, hey, they are working on trading for someone, because I know some people were saying, oh, he just spilt the beans. They're trying to get somebody. They're trying to land somebody. Or you could take it the other way and say, hey, we're trying to develop one in-house. So you could take it really two different ways, but it just kind of brings up the same story. Do they want to bring someone in? And like we said a couple shows ago, the Bears have $20 million in cap space. They have the ability to add in a defensive end if they want to, or just a defensive lineman in general. And the reason why this also comes up is because Hassan Reddick, who got traded to the Jets, is now demanding a trade. Now, the Jets have said, hey, we're going to keep him. And we plan on keeping him because, hey, we traded a pick for him. Now, if you do go after Hassan Reddick, there's clearly a difference in what he wants in his contract than what the Jets want, because this is his final year of his contract. And you look at the numbers, he's gotten like 55 sacks and I think it's like 46 games. So he's been racking up a lot of sacks. He's been going crazy when it comes to the sack numbers, but he is a 30-year-old pass rusher. Is this someone that we would actually want to get? So let me know. Do you want the Bears to trade for Hassan Reddick? If it means you have to give him an extension, probably somewhere in the $20 million a year range. I know Spot Rack was projecting more $26 million a year for Hassan Reddick, which to me, you're already paying Montez Sweat, and I think Reddick is a good player, a good pass rusher, but I think that price is just a little bit too high for my liking. But let me know what you think down below in the comments. Other players to look out for, just Matt Judon, and then obviously a potential for signing Yannick Ngakoue is still potentially on the table. But also, we'll bring this up as well. Jonathan Allen from the Washington Commanders can always be a potential possibility as more of an interior player that the Bears could potentially look at too. We never know. I would like to see a big splash just because it makes it more fun, makes it a little bit more entertaining. So something definitely to be on the lookout for, because it does feel like we're going to add somebody. But also this brings up too, if you add someone who is the odd man out, and we've been talking about Dominique Robinson, we've been talking about some other players, because if you add someone else has to go. So definitely something that we're going to keep you up to date on if we get any more information on this. But now let's talk a little bit about training camp. So let's just kind of talk about some of the latest on the injuries front. So yesterday, the people not practicing, Jaquan Brisker, Roshan Johnson, Colbert, Carter, Sewell, Martin, Bates, and another Johnson. So lots of people that were not participating, but Kyler Gordon, Montez Sweat, and Nate Davis were both limited. So something that we at least like to see, Nate Davis going out there. But yet again, it was an unpadded practice yesterday, which is kind of Nate Davis's jam. So Nate Davis, not out there, but also another little note, Karana Amagaji is now starting to ramp up into some of these drills. So something that we really need to see, because we know about the injuries that are happening around the offensive line. Karana Amagaji, if he can come in, would be very, very nice, a very welcome addition to the depth of this offensive line group, because someone, yet again, inside, outside versatility at the guard and tackle spots. So someone that we need someone to push a Larry Borum. We need someone to push a Jake Curhan. I think that Amagaji is coming in at the perfect time. When will he be off of the PUP list? We still don't know, but it's nice to see that he's at least starting to ramp up off of his hamstring injury. Then next, some other things that I was kind of taking, because I was at the practice yesterday and we had some defensive line drills that I was watching, because also yesterday, very, very slow day. So also I went with my kids, and to be honest with you, I got the first half of practice, and then after that, not so much. So I do have what happened during the scrimmage, but I wasn't able to watch the scrimmage because we were doing autographs and other things like that. But let's talk about the first half. So my overall impressions. First off, it was a very slow day. There was not a lot of activity going on until at the very end when they actually had those scrimmages. But something that I noticed, because I was right next to the defensive line group, was that they were working on that move drill, where, yet again, we've talked about this, where when they say move, it's like in Madden or NCAA football, whatever you're playing right now, when you're able to just move the defensive line. If you think about it, that's a lot more challenging to do when you don't have a controller that literally controls all of them. You need someone to tell people to move. So this is something that I saw them work on a lot, with Andrew Billings mainly being the one that is yelling move, and then the defensive line shifts. So they go left, they go inside, they change their formation to just kind of throw off the offensive line right before the snap. So it was nice to see them just continuing to work on that, because as soon as they show a different look, it can confuse that offensive line. So something that they were practicing. Also another take, Dominique Robinson, we were just talking about him, looks a lot bigger. And ironically enough, today or yesterday, he talked about how, hey, he is bigger. He was working out and he got a lot bigger. And when you look at Austin Booker compared to him, it's like, oh, Austin Booker looks a lot skinnier when you look at Dominique Robinson, because he did add a lot of good weight, because this is a marathon. The season is a long season. You need to have that body armor on you, essentially. You can't just be this skinny person. So not critiquing Austin Booker at all, but just Dominique Robinson, he did look a lot bigger. He did look, good out there, to be honest with you. So Dominique Robinson, the best thing is if he can at least develop and do something good, like we've said. But if he's not going to perform during some of the games and other things like that, then yeah, he would be a cut candidate if they want to try and add in another person. So whether it be trade, like we were talking about earlier today. So now, let's talk a little bit more different people that I saw too. So with the defensive line players or defensive line drills, something I want to call out as well is that you can definitely tell who's in the starting lineup and who's the backups versus the people that are probably not going to make the roster. So unfortunately, I know Jamry Chroma, a lot of people like that guy. I was watching him going, yeah, he's small, kind of he's undersized. He didn't seem as fast as everybody else. But then you see Austin Booker, you see Dominique Robinson, you see Walker. They're big, they're powerful, they're fast. And that is something that really did stand out to me as well, is you see the size difference and the speed difference of the true starters versus those people just kind of battling for a practice squad spot. So overall, it was solid. But like I said, they were heavily working on that move drill. The next thing, because I have to call this out, because we're watching the defensive linemen and other things like that. I'm watching it with my son. My son goes, Dad, I need to go to the restroom. So we get up, we go to the bathroom, and then after that, we're watching special teams. So we watched a lot of the special teams, but I got to talk about Tory Taylor is different. And if you want to know from a 4-year-old's perspective, he also saw that too. You don't have to be an expert in football to know that Tory Taylor is different, because we're watching this, and anytime that Taylor would just boom it, my 4-year-old would just look and go, wow, look at that. Like, look how high that one is, because the ball just literally goes significantly higher. And it's like what people were talking about too, where he's got different clubs in his bag, so to speak, where when you see other punters, it always seemed like the ball would always kind of come out the same way. With Taylor, it was like every single time that I'd see him punt it, the ball had a different rotation or a different spin to it. But also he was able to pin a lot of it down inside of the 10. Just ridiculously impressive. Very, very good. And yeah, you see the difference between him and Waitman was still good. He was still punting it well, but it's just Taylor was different. And there really is a big difference between the different punters when you see how the ball is out, how high his ball gets, and just the rotation, everything. It is different. He is definitely a special player when it comes to punting the football. So is it still worth a 4th round pick? I don't know. I thought that Cedric Van Pran looked really good for the Bills last week, and we could have had him at center. So there was always that. But still, he's just a fun player to watch. But also Cairo Santos, when I was watching him, I didn't see him miss, but I think he might have missed one on the opposite end. But still, nice to see Santos at least consistently hitting the field goals now, because there was a little lull where he started missing a little bit more. But now, next, let's talk about some of these scrimmages before we break down the Hard Knocks stuff. So just overall with scrimmage results, seemed like it was more of an offensive day that ended up winning. So Caleb was able to throw it to Gerald Everett on 7-on-7s, but the play of the day was Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams. So it seemed like Caleb was able to get the defense to jump off sides, and then he throws it to Rome Odunze, who ran a double move on Terrell Smith, and basically wide open in the end zone. Everybody went crazy right there. We were waiting in line, but we saw it, we listened to it, and we're waiting in line for autographs. And all of a sudden, we just hear everybody erupt, and it was for this play. And the video of it was really cool too. So yeah, overall, just Rome and Caleb still kind of having this connection. And also, I forgot another thing that stood out to me when you watch camp. When you just see camp, Caleb does have an aura to him. Because when you watch Caleb Williams and when you watch practice, Caleb's always dancing, Caleb's always talking to people, Caleb's doing a whole bunch of different stuff out there. So that was something that jumped out to me, was just the Caleb Williams-ness that is out there, where he just has his own aura, has his own vibe, and is just his own person. So it's nice to see with the quarterback, because that's just who he is. But some other pieces too, saw a lot more slants out there than us Bears fans are normally accustomed to. So hopefully we can start taking advantage of just easy routes, like those easy slants that the Packers have always plagued us with. But then also, Jalen Johnson continues to be great. He had a pass breakup against Keenan Allen in the back right corner. Terrell Smith also had a PBU on DJ Moore. And then Tremaine Edmonds also got an interception when Williams was trying to target Dante Pettis in the back corner of the end zone. But overall, some other little notes too. Bears first team offense is struggling. In 11-on-11s, there was a false start too. But Caleb really didn't expect the snap. Also, they had like a jet sweep and DeAndre Swift fumbled. So there's still, the offense had its good moments, but then there was just some moments that just, you got to clean up. False start and a little fumble right there from DeAndre Swift. But overall though, you still see the special plays out of Caleb Williams, and the defense still, Jalen Johnson looks awesome. But now is the time to talk about HBO. Time to talk about Hard Knocks. So if you haven't seen it, you can skip it. You can skip this part. You can listen to it later. I just want to break down a little bit about Hard Knocks, because it is something that we all watch. And if you don't have HBO, right, you can try and get one of your friends' episodes or anything like that. Watch it online if you Google search to try and find it. But with Hard Knocks, I thought it was really cool because they kept on showing the Rome and Caleb connection and that friendship that they have. And you can tell just they like each other. They're friends with one another, being both of the Bears' first round picks this season. But also, too, they talked about Velus Jones at running back. Something that I also saw at camp is that Velus really was playing the running back position. And yet again, I like how in HBO they were talking about Percy Harvin. So another wide receiver that kind of switched over to more of that running back position kind of Percy Harvin, but I always bring up Cordero Patterson just because of the way that he runs is more Patterson-like. And another thing too, speaking of running backs, is Ian Wheeler. And I thought it was interesting that they made it seem like Wheeler and Velus are kind of fighting for the back of the roster at that running back position, rather than, hey, Velus is just more of a kick returner that plays both wide receiver and running back. That was something that I thought was a little interesting that they brought up Wheeler, but Wheeler was someone that a lot of us thought was going to be featured because good player. And as they talked about, he's going for his doctorate. Like he can get his doctorate in psychology. Like we said, very smart guy, but also very fast. The thing I didn't know was, like they talked about the Eeyore eyes, how he just looks sad. And I didn't realize that until you actually do watch him. You're like, he does look sad. He does look really sad when he's out there. So, but obviously we saw him, what he was able to do versus the Bills. Just a very, very impressive running back out there. But the last little bit too that I just want to highlight, I really like the whole Keenan Allen and Jalen Johnson dynamic, because think about it. We've had Bears fights. We've had fights during training camp where it's a defensive back and a receiver. You know, I think about Kyle Fuller and Martellus Bennett. But we've had, to me, what I like about this is you have two very good players that just seem to have a mutual respect for them, where Jalen Johnson is constantly going against Keenan Allen, and it really is a case of iron sharpening iron, where you have one of the best going against another one of the best, and Jalen Johnson is seemingly locking down Keenan Allen, which is great to see from a defensive perspective, where, hey, he is the real deal. We gave him all this money because he is that good. So Keenan Allen, Jalen Johnson, to me, was something that I really enjoyed watching, because you could have one of two ways. If you get stopped by a defender, you can complain about it. But it seemed like they aren't complaining about it. They're going to each other and like, hey, great job. And that is something that really stands out to me with just the level of maturity that these two people have. And hopefully it continues that way, especially because they've been in camp for a really long time. So being in camp for this long and not being at each other's throats, I thought very cool thing. Something that I really like to watch just with Hard Knocks, Keenan and Jalen. Very, very cool stuff. But other than that, I mean, it was kind of, to me, there wasn't really anything like too eventful with this one. You know, there was no Canadian Eagle moment or anything like that, but it was just fun to watch what the Bears are up to and what they're doing. And Austin Reed, seeing their family and seeing Austin Reed talk to Cole Kmet about what Love Island. So I think it was just more fun, entertaining, nothing too noteworthy with this. But let me know what you think. I thought it was pretty fun, entertaining episode today, though. So also, Bears Junkie, JJ is going to be the best corner conversation this year. I do agree. Because like we said this, we're like, normally the coverage stats are very up and down. We've seen this historically with cornerbacks. But right now, it does look like Jalen Johnson is like, hey, this ain't a fluke. And not saying that it's a fluke when it goes up and down. It's just that's the way that coverage stats go. They do go up and down. They're very volatile. So hopefully Jalen can kind of keep on playing at that level and kind of fly in the face of what normally happens with cornerbacks where they have that volatility. Because he definitely, we saw it on the Bills game. He was locking down everybody. You do not throw Jalen Johnson's way. So awesome stuff. But yeah, let me know what you thought down below in the comments. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you're still watching out there on YouTube. Also, download the podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports. It's free. You can download it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's